Humans have spent millennia building sophisticated particle colliders to map the universe, yet we still cannot explain why a single, untranslatable German word can trigger a mild existential crisis on a random Tuesday afternoon. We pride ourselves on cognitive supremacy, yet our daily emotional survival relies on a bizarre paradox. You routinely experience complex psychological states that your native vocabulary is literally too poor to describe, leaving you trapped in a silent sensory prison of your own mind. You feel something deeply, but because your language lacks a specific label for it, your brain processes it as background noise or a vague, unsettling physical symptom. This linguistic blind spot is not a minor inconvenience. It is a systematic structural failure of your reality. Consider the Japanese concept of mono no aware, the beautiful, agonizing sadness of impermanence, or the Portuguese saudade, a crushing, hollow longing for someone or something that might not even exist anymore. These are not merely poetic decorations or fancy marketing terms for tourism boards. They are precise cognitive tools. Without them, you are navigating a highly complex emotional landscape with a map that only shows major highways, completely missing the treacherous, breathtaking cliffs. This structural deficiency raises an uncomfortable, creeping question. If you do not have a word for a highly specific, agonizingly real feeling, does that emotion actually exist in your conscious mind? Or are you just drifting through life completely blind to half of your own internal existence? The terrifying answer to this question lies buried deep within the dark, heavily guarded secrets of cognitive neuroscience, linguistic relativity, and a series of highly controversial, forgotten psychological experiments that we will dissect in the final acts of this investigation. For now, we must first look at how your mother tongue actively hacks your brain, lobotomizing your sensory perception without your conscious consent. Our collective delusion begins with the naive assumption that language is merely a neutral, passive mirror reflecting an objective external reality. In truth, your language is a tyrannical architect that actively constructs, limits, and sometimes outright invents the physical world you think you see. In the late 19th century, Victorian scholars noticed that Homer's Odyssey famously described the sea as wine dark, but never once used the word blue. This led to the wild initial theory that ancient Greeks were colorblind, a claim that was quickly debunked by biological science. The reality was far more unsettling. The human eye could physically register the light waves, but the brain did not categorize blue as a distinct, independent concept. Modern linguistic studies on the Himba tribe of Namibia prove this cognitive conditioning is still actively happening today. The Himba use a vocabulary that categorizes colors in a way that completely baffles Western minds. They have numerous distinct words for different shades of green, yet they group blue and green under the same umbrella term. When shown a circle of 11 green squares and 1 blue square, Himba speakers struggle to identify the blue anomaly, taking several painful seconds to spot what a Westerner sees instantly. However, when shown a circle of green squares where one is only microscopically different in shade, the Himba identify the odd one out immediately, while Westerners stare in absolute blind confusion. The physical light hitting the retina is identical in both groups, but the linguistic hardware of the brain overrides the sensory input. If your language does not give you a folder for a specific sensory input, your cognitive desktop simply deletes the file. This same brutal, unconscious filtering mechanism applies directly to your emotional life, shaping how you feel pain, joy, and regret. This cognitive censorship becomes a matter of life, death, and economic exploitation when applied to our emotional vocabulary. In the West, we operate under a highly clinical binary division of emotion. You are either happy or sad, angry or calm, healthy or sick. This rigid, dualistic framework is not a universal truth. It is a cultural and economic product of the Industrial Revolution. Capitalist societies require standardized, easily classifiable emotional states to keep the workforce predictable and productive. If you feel a strange, hollow ache on a Sunday afternoon, a feeling of mourning for a life you never lived, Western medicine labels it as a mild depressive episode and suggests a pharmaceutical intervention or a retail therapy purchase. Meanwhile, the Welsh language has spent centuries perfecting the word hiraeth, a profound, bone-deep homesickness for a home to which you cannot return, a home which maybe never was. By naming this specific ache, Welsh culture does not pathologize it. They validate it, turning a terrifying, isolating psychological void into a shared, beautiful human monument. Without these specific words, we become victims of emotional illiteracy. The economic impact of this illiteracy is staggering, costing global healthcare systems billions annually as individuals present with somatic, physical symptoms like chronic migraines, unexplained muscle tension, and severe digestive issues. These physical ailments are often nothing more than highly complex, unexpressed emotions that have been denied a linguistic outlet, forcing the physical body to scream because the tongue has been effectively muted by a sterile, deficient vocabulary. The true horrifying depth of this linguistic imprisonment was revealed in a series of radical, suppressed experiments on bilingual individuals, exposing how easily the human personality can be fractured. In the mid-20th century, researchers began studying bilingual individuals who spoke languages with radically different emotional structures, such as Japanese and English. When these subjects were asked to describe their self-identities in English, they expressed highly individualistic, assertive, and confident traits, focusing heavily on personal achievements and desires. However, when the exact same subjects were interviewed in Japanese, their entire personality shifted dramatically toward collectivism, humility, and acute social awareness. They became completely different people, possessing different values, different memories, and even displaying different physical gestures. The language they spoke did not just translate their thoughts, it completely hijacked their moral compass and altered their perception of time. Some languages, like the Australian Aboriginal language Gugu Yimithirr, do not use relative spatial terms like left or right. Instead, they use absolute cardinal directions, requiring speakers to know exactly where north, south, east, and west are at every single millisecond of their lives. A speaker of this language possesses a biological compass that Westerners cannot comprehend. If you strip away the language, you strip away the cognitive superpower. This realization shatters our traditional understanding of free will, proving that your deepest convictions, your personality, and even your orientation in physical space are merely temporary lease agreements, signed on behalf of the language you happen to inherit at birth. Ultimately, we are left with a stark, cynical choice in our quest for emotional survival. We can continue to live as linguistic peasants, suffering from vague, unnamed psychological ailments that we desperately try to cure with consumerism. Or we can actively colonize other languages to rescue our own sanity. When you learn that the Japanese word yugen describes a profound, mysterious awareness of the beauty of the universe that is too deep for words, or that the German word Torschlusspanik describes the acute, terrifying fear that life's opportunities are rapidly closing shut as you age, you are not just learning foreign vocabulary, you are downloading software patches for your glitchy, outdated brain. These foreign terms act as cognitive life rafts, rescuing you from the suffocating anxiety of feeling something you cannot explain. The great irony of human civilization is that we have built vast, digital empires of instant communication, yet we remain deeply isolated, trapped within the provincial borders of our native vocabularies. The next time you feel an inexplicable, heavy weight in your chest that you cannot define, do not assume you are broken. You are simply experiencing a profound human truth that your current language is too poor, too sterile, or too cowardly to admit. Perhaps the ultimate cure for our modern existential dread is not therapy, but a relentless, global smuggling of words, a black market of foreign emotions designed to finally set our conscious minds free.